Eve of 2019. Tomorrow will be the first day of a brand new year. Take a second and think about what that means to you. What does that mean? To be at the start, the beginning of a brand new year, 365 days ahead of you, until you have come full circle to the start of another calendar year. So what does that mean? For many of you, it means a hangover. But for many more of us, it means possibility. It means chances and opportunities. It means a fresh start. Maybe for some of you, it means redemption. All of which come in the favored form of New Year's resolutions. But you see, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I believe in small, daily evolutions. Now, most people do New Year's resolutions as a tradition. It's what they were taught, and they don't question that, right? Like if you tell someone that you're not making resolutions this year, don't they look at you like you're crazy? But you see, the outcome of doing it simply out of tradition typically is that either you don't stick to your resolutions, or you do for a couple of days, maybe a week, and then you decide that you're not seeing any progress, or that it's too hard, and so it's not worth it to keep going. And then you quit. And then you beat yourself up about it for a little bit, and then you forget all about it until the next New Year's Eve, when it's time to make more resolutions. So I'm going to help you stop this cycle of failure and disappointment. If you really want to make some changes in your life, this podcast will help you. It doesn't matter if you're listening to it on New Year's Day, Christmas Day, your birthday, or the last day that you're planning on being alive. This message can change your life. And here's how. The first step is to realize that you don't wait till New Year's Eve to change the things that you're unhappy about in your life. Any day will do just fine. And if you're only addressing the idea of these changes simply to keep the tradition of making resolutions, then of course you're not going to stick to it because you don't mean it, because you don't want it, or else you wouldn't have waited till New Year's Eve to address it. So don't wait. If you find something about yourself or your life that you're unhappy with, don't wait. Make a decision right then and there, and start planning out your changes. Now I say planning out because successful changes don't happen overnight. They happen over time. You want to lose weight or gain muscle? You want to learn a new language or learn to play an instrument? You want to quit smoking or be a better parent? You want to save more money or make more money? Whatever would have been your New Year's resolutions this year, it won't happen overnight. And it won't happen at all without a plan and some effort. I say it all the time, you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. So let's get started. The first stage of planning is to be decisive, certain, and clear about exactly what it is that you want. Don't just say you want to save some money. Decide how much money you want to save. Don't just say you want to lose some weight or gain some muscle. Decide clearly and certainly the weight level at which you want to be. Set a goal. And then grab a pen and paper and write it all down. I write everything down, and I mean everything, even things I've written down before. And I encourage you to write everything down too. And here's why. People say, ask and ye shall receive. Knock and the door will open. Well, writing stuff down is asking. It's a way of knocking on the door. It's the first step in the right direction. Writing down your goals will benefit you in more ways than you know. First, it gives you a destination. I mean, we all know you can't get where you're going until you know where you're going. And next, it's a commitment. Taking the time to write down your goals is a way of committing to them, a way of saying, this is important to me. And also, when you write your goals down, you engage a function of the subconscious mind called the reticular activation system. Some of you have heard me talk about this before. This is the part of the mind that focuses on and searches for things that are important to you and things that are connected to the things that are important to you. The best example I can give you of how the reticular activation system works is this. Let's say you buy a specific type of car in a specific color thinking, I never see anybody driving this type of car in this color. And after you buy it, you start to notice that more and more people are driving the same car as you, in the same color. Did they copy you? Are you hallucinating? No. Nobody, no. The car and its color weren't significant to you before, so you thought they were uncommon. You simply never noticed it. But once you bought that car in that color, it gained significance to your subconscious mind, and so thanks to your reticular activation system, you now pay more attention subconsciously and consciously when you see one that looks like yours. So write down your goals and put them somewhere where you can see them every day, because your reticular activation system will help you find opportunities that are tied in with those goals. And remember, you can always go back and change what you wrote down later. And you'll still be equally as successful as long as you continue to be decisive, certain, and clear. Okay, so you've decided what you want, and you've committed to it by writing it down. So now the thing to do is to set a deadline for that goal or for those goals. You've decided what you want to achieve. Now decide when you want to achieve it by. Just like writing your goals down, setting a deadline serves multiple purposes, with the biggest one being that it helps you decide what kind of action you need to take to accomplish your goals. For example, if you want to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, that may require some massive action, depending on your metabolism and your daily habits. But if you want to lose 30 pounds in 6 months, or even in a year, that may only require some minor adjustments to your daily habits. You see where I'm going with this? So on top of helping you decide what steps to take, deadlines also help you track your progress, which will show you whether or not your actions are effective. If your goal was to lose 30 pounds in 6 months, but it's been 4 months since you set your deadline and you've only lost 10 pounds, then you'll either need to make some adjustments to your actions and your daily habits, or just feel free to change your deadlines. It's okay to do that too. It's also helpful to find more than one way to track your progress. For example, my son's mom works out 2 hours a day, 3 to 5 days a week. And for every day that she works out, she marks an X on that day on the calendar. And now that might not sound like much of a big deal, but at the end of the month or even at the end of the week, she can look at that calendar and visualize how much work she did or didn't put in towards achieving her goal. Which leads me to my next point. Nothing worth writing down is going to be easy. It's not going to be the kind of situation where you just walk in, get it done, and then walk out and say, that was great. What's next? If it was going to be easy, you would have fixed it already. If it was going to be easy, you wouldn't have waited till New Year's Eve to address it. If it were going to be easy, you wouldn't have needed to write it down. But most importantly, if it were easy, there would be no appreciation. There would be no growth, no perspective, no sense of accomplishment or fulfillment, and therefore, no meaning. The changes you made would be meaningless and insignificant. Take a moment and think about the difference between earning something that you worked hard for and just being handed something. Now, as I said a few minutes ago, most people don't actually uphold their New Year's resolutions, and those who do tend to give up at an early stage because they don't see immediate results. I call this the Rocky effect. Now, for those of you who've never seen the original Rocky film, it came out in 1976 and was written by and starred Sylvester Stallone. It's the story of an everyday Joe who wants to be a boxer but doesn't think it can happen. Then he gets a trainer who inspires and motivates him. And somewhere during the last half of the film, there's this training montage where we see the film's hero doing sit-ups and jumping rope and running in the snow and punching sides of frozen beef and running upstairs. And when he's done, he's pumped and he's ready to go out and win the fight. And after this dense but inspirational series of exercise clips, most of the people who watched it also feel like they're ready to go out and win the fight. But unfortunately, because the training montage takes less than 10 minutes, people expect to spend about that same amount of time achieving their goals. The problem is they're not taking into account some simple but very important facts, like the amount of time that montage is meant to represent. It may only take about 10 minutes in the film, maybe less, but it's meant to represent a much longer period of training. Alright, they also need to take into account the fact that Sylvester Stallone and his character Rocky Balboa was already a big buff dude before the training began. He was in beyond great shape, and thus had a huge head start in comparison to a real average Joe. That's why I call it the Rocky effect, because Rocky makes it look easy. But we've already agreed that it won't be easy, right? You can't just do some sit-ups and jump some rope and then go out and achieve all your dreams. However, just because it won't be easy doesn't mean it won't be possible. One of my favorite phrases is, it's possible. It doesn't matter how big or unrealistic or unachievable your goals might seem. It's possible. But see, there are two mistakes that people commonly make when it comes to their goals and their future and their dreams. And the first mistake is to decide that your goals or your dreams are too big, too far out of reach. And so you don't name them and you don't write them down and you don't go after them because you don't want to fail. If you never set a target, you'll never know how close you came or how far off you were, and you'll never have to admit that you failed. Ignorance is bliss, right? Except that if you do it that way, you'll fail every day, day after day, and resentment will build. And by the time that you're mature enough to admit that you failed, it will be too late to reverse it. And the other mistake is that you have the heart to dream big and to set out after something that sounds unrealistic, that people are going to tell you that you're crazy for chasing it. You have the heart, but you don't have the vision to see the path that will lead you there. And people who make that mistake tend to fail early on and then get discouraged and give up. Both of those mistakes can be avoided if you have one missing piece of insight. How to bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. But you won't have that problem because you've written down your goals and you've given yourself a deadline. So now to bridge the gap between here and there, you need stepping stone goals, or what I like to call small daily evolutions. So if your goal is to lose weight or gain muscle, this is where you decide how often you'll go to the gym and what exercises to do. If your goal is to spend more time with your kids, this is where you decide what you want to do during that time that you plan to spend with your kids, as well as how and where you can fit it into your already busy schedule. If your goal is to save up X amount of money or to make some extra money on the side over a certain amount of months, this is where you start brainstorming all the different ways that you could possibly do it. And you need these stepping stone goals because you can set a goal of saving $2,000 in 6 months, but without a plan, it will never happen. Like Denzel Washington said, dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. And I know from personal experience he's right. No matter what your goal is, I found that it's extremely helpful to write out your 24-hour schedule to help you plan it. For example, like 7 a.m. wake up, coffee, 7:30 shower and get ready, 8:15 leave for work, etc. Whatever your daily 24-hour schedule is, since most of us tend to do the same thing pretty much every day, day in and day out, this will help you. Accomplishing goals that you haven't accomplished yet requires doing things that you aren't doing yet. Writing out your 24-hour schedule helps you figure out which time wasters you can eliminate and which things that are important that you can move around or reschedule in order to make time for the new habits you have to create to achieve your goals. You see, a new chapter in your life requires new habits. Not just to initiate the change, but to keep it going. You can diet and work out all you want, but if you don't keep going even after you've reached the goal you set for yourself, your body will go right back to the state it was in when you decided to make a change in the first place. So, how do you create these habits? How do you make small daily evolutions? You need 2 key ingredients to initiate and instill life-changing, goal-reaching habits. You need commitment and you need consistency. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Without commitment, you will never get started, and without consistency, you will never finish. And you'll need them both because they feed off of each other. Having commitment allows you to be consistent. Being consistent gives you small victories, which will then encourage your commitment, which will then build your consistency. Commitment and consistency create the habits that create small daily evolutions, and small daily evolutions create large improvements over time. As I said earlier, you won't reach your goals overnight, but with commitment and consistency, you will reach them over time. These small daily evolutions are small victories on the road to the larger victory that you wrote down in the first place. They are the stepping stones on the path to your future. So learn how to recognize them and learn how to celebrate them after you achieve them. Because those small victories are what will keep you going when things get hard or don't go how you planned. Because that's going to happen too. Even if it's easy at first, or even if you have small victories, there's always going to be disappointments and distractions along the way. On the way to your future, whether you're chasing your dreams or not, there are going to be obstacles, roadblocks, and distractions. Things that knock you off of your path, or maybe block it entirely. But don't get discouraged, and don't give up. Just look for a new path and keep moving forward. George Bernard Shaw said, "The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, they make them." Now, I've given you the tools to start forging the circumstances you want, to start forging a path to the future you want. And whether you're listening to this message on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whether it's Earth Day or it's your birthday, the question is, what does the next year mean to you? Does it mean 12 more months of letting the days roll by, letting the time pass you up? 12 more months of living life like an accident and just letting things happen? Or does it mean a year full of possibility, Does it mean 12 more months of proving to yourself and to the world that all of the things you are unhappy with in your life are completely fixable? Is it 365 small daily evolutions on the path to controlling your future? Only you can decide. Just don't wait until the decision is made for you.